But we want to protect a view of God which is not substantiated by the biblical text. And we want to close that down.
Lord have mercy.
And it's one of those gods I want to talk about today. Also, part of this anti-intellectualism in the black church, I believe, is sociologically based in the fact that we were denied access to education.
Well,
we were denied access to the institutions that would allow for exploring ideas. And because of that denying of access, we decided at times that it's best not to be intellectual. If we can't get it, then it ain't worth having it. And so we are keeping, even though we have an institution that allows for the exploration, we still, in the community, don't want to do it because it brings up the pain of our having been denied access to it. And I think that functions a lot in what's happening in this view. And finally, there is what I think is a false notion that our power as clergy is based in our adhering to doctrine. And so we'll lose our power if we go against the word. Now, King was not an Orthodox Baptist. He did not buy into Calvinism and that the basic depravity of humans. King said that there was a spark of the divine and we needed to flame that spark in the human to get it going. He got thrown out of National Baptist. It wasn't just because J. Jackson was jealous of him. It was because they didn't like his theology. He didn't talk about the kingdom of God. He talked about the beloved community. They didn't like his theology, so they threw him out, and out of that came SCLC and PMBC. We think our power is in adhering to doctrine as opposed to our power comes from being in true relationship with God and the community and addressing the community when they're hurting. We had a major experience of that, seeing that in the Lutheran Church a number of years ago, around a decade ago, when one of the Lutheran pastors here in Atlanta was gay, was open, and his partner was in the church. And according to Lutheran doctrine, you could be gay, but you had to be celibate, and you couldn't have no partner. And they had a tribunal to defrock him. And his church stood up for him and said, he's so good as a pastor, you can't do it. And the whole denomination changed their doctrine. Our power is not based in, do we say what the people want to hear? Our power is based in, are we there with them when they're hurting? Are we there with them when they are rejoicing? Are we there with them and do we know them? You can always tell whether a pastor knows the congregation by going to a funeral.
That's right.
And seeing whether the eulogy shows, does the pastor know the person or not know the person.
That's right.
And sometimes we hear eulogies of deacons that the pastor didn't even know. Our power is not based. For some folk, it's based in question of doctrine. But if you are ministering to them in a powerful way that addresses their human needs, they'll give you a pass on the doctrine.
Lord have mercy.
And so I want us to look at this view that's presented here in Genesis 2 and 3, which is telling us to be anti-intellectuals. And I want to try to tell us, don't do it. Don't do it. We know that there are varieties of creation stories. We know there's the priestly story of the magician deity who says, I sure wish there was some light around here. And all of a sudden, somebody else makes light. And then he says, oh, that's good. And then spends the whole day separating out the light from the darkness. How good that light? But I sure wish there was some herbs around here. And then the earth gives him some herb. Deity needs some herbs, okay. We got Job's creation story of this wolf-buying God who buys wolf tickets from Satan, from Satan. Oh, Job is doing this just because you've been good to him. I said, okay, well, go mess with him, Doesn't stand up for him. Then said, well, did nothing happen to himself. Yeah, we said, okay, go hurt him, it's wolf ticket. Keeps buying wolf tickets. And then when Job starts yelling at him, he sells some wolf tickets. I said, were you there when I did all this? No, I wasn't there, but who cares? I mean, like I'm saying, Try to shut him down. And our churches love Job 38. We will shout off that. Don't make no sense. Just because I wasn't there don't mean I can't ask a question. The psalmist's portrayal of creation in Psalm 105 and the whole liturgical thing that it was just a service. Wisdom's claim in Proverbs 8 that she, as a deity, was co-creator with Yahweh. I've never understood when I do this passage in churches why the women don't shout. But it doesn't happen in the classroom either. That here we have in the Bible a woman deity who was co-creator, master workman with Yahweh, that Yahweh couldn't have done it without her. And we have done something to women's spirituality that they don't shout off that. Because we've sold them patriarchy. We got a bunch of creation stories. Yeah. And they kept them all. They even have
they kept them all.
John claiming in the beginning of the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And we use John to interpret what's happening in Genesis 1. But it's okay. It's okay because they kept all of these stories. They didn't boil it down to just one story. So we can choose. And we can choose, I think, to say, I go with this one, I don't go with that one.
Well,
I don't like none of them, and I'm going to create another one. That choice is there for us.
Yeah.
It's not there for those who are so afraid to trust God in their intellect to be able to struggle through and say, well, one day this story works, another day that story works, but this day this one ain't working for me. So, in this story, we have this African deity, Yahweh, who creates a garden, goes all the way from Mesopotamia down to Cush. That's a lot of territory.
Yeah, there's a lot of territory.
Makes one man, puts him in that garden, and says, you till it.
You take it.
Like you can, like he can take care of that one thing. And then to scare him says, you till it, but don't you eat from the tree of knowledge. Pick the cotton, but don't get no learning. And I can't control you if you get some learning. So till the ground, eat what you want, but don't get knowledge. And then this God says, well, not good for the man to be alone. I see now he needs somebody, some help. Then starts bringing animals one after another. Dog, cat, cow, turkey. Then, well, he still doesn't have a helpmate. So then he performs a C-section, puts the man to sleep, cuts him open, takes it, gives him a, let's try a woman. This is a trial and error deity. This is a God who's trying to figure it out. Who in chapter 6 is going to say, I made a mistake. I'm going to drown them all. And then in chapter 8 said, well, that didn't work. I ain't going to try that again. This This is a portrayal of a deity who's trying to figure it out, and we don't like that God. Theology of prayer based on these passages: God, please try to figure out what I need, and please try to figure it out before I die. But we don't like that God.
Lord have mercy.
So we refuse to read this story based on what's in the text. Because we figure that God can't help us.
Lord have mercy.
I don't know why we figure that God can't help us. But for some reason, we think that God can't help us. So we're willing to read this story as though God is omniscient, omnipotent. Yeah, omniscient. He says to man, where is you? What you doing? Did you eat? Who told you? Why you do that? Gonna say to Cain, where your brother? What happened? Omniscience is not Yahweh's major characteristic.
Well,
But we like Greek philosophy.
oh,
So we're going to go with omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent. He walked in the cool of the night.
Lord have mercy.
He ain't showing up every day. But we don't like that God. And so we reform the text to conform to our theology as opposed to looking at what's this trying to tell us? What's here? Paul said the first man brought in death. Well, if the man was told, if you eat from this tree, on that day you will surely die, the man must have known what death was. Otherwise, it wouldn't make no sense to threaten him with death.
Lord have mercy. There you go.
But Paul likes Greek philosophy.
Yeah.
Tried to sell us that mess. In Corinthians, we don't go with wisdom, we go with God's wisdom, which is really Greek philosophy. And I heard all the amens as Dr. Don was reading that passage. That we got some Gnostic knowledge that nobody else has. Yeah. For some reason, this God don't want this man to eat from the tree of knowledge. And I have had students who felt that getting an F was their allegiance to this God who doesn't want you to get knowledge.
Lord have mercy.
I remember my first semester here. I have a policy that I would not accept late papers, late work, unless we negotiated prior to. And there was one Negro who was taking intro to Old Testament as the second semester of his senior year.
Lord have mercy. Oh, no.
I don't know how he got that far. But anyway, I had all types of pressure from some faculty members to change his grade. And the then dean of Morehouse School of Religion said to me, stick to your guns, because then they'll find out you're crazy and they won't try it again. And I listened to that man. And it was a lie, because they tried it every semester. Even one year, put up some sexual harassment charges on me. I flunked them because they said no to me. It didn't make no sense. If they said no to me, I should have been scared and would have passed them. The administration ran scared and graduated those. Something about buying into being afraid of thinking things through.
Lord have mercy.
So P adds something to this story and has the serpent talking to the woman and says, did God, that's how we know it's P because it's Elohim in here, did God say don't eat from any of the trees of the garden? She said, nah, God said we can eat from everything but from the tree in the middle of the garden we can't eat and we can't touch it. She wasn't even there. And that part of the story in chapter 2. How she know this? A whole lot of reams of scholarship on how she knew it. Don't matter. I don't think it's But because what she's doing is, it didn't say in chapter 2, don't touch it. She is performing what in the ancient world was making a fence around the law.
Lord have mercy.
A fence around the law was you set up a law to keep you from breaking another law. So if you can't touch it, then you won't eat it. This is a very sophisticated woman. This is her portrayal. Now again, for those of you, then of course I'm talking about portrayals of people. I don't know if any of this ever happened. I don't care. They're giving us portrayals of folk.